This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio.
Ralph just returned from a 7-night cruise on the MSC Grandiosa, and he joins us today to talk about it. We were chatting before the interview about this cruise and kind of getting, I like to get some context before I hit record and start the interview so we can kind of make some notes and get an outline. But Ralph was just giving so much great information during the pre-show screening that just hit record and we started chatting. So we're going to pick up at the interview right here. You're in Savannah, so when you head down to Port Canaveral, is that a day of drive for you or some pre-cruise time beforehand?
No, what we usually do is drive about halfway, usually around your backyard. So, usually we put in somewhere around Jacksonville. We leave after work the day before and, just drive because if the traffic's good, it's about 4.5 hours. So we'll drive a couple hours down to Jacksonville, stay over somewhere off 95, and then drive in. Now, when we get back, we do the drive straight through because, it's like, hey, been fun to have you, and they give you the boot and kick you off the boat as soon as they can. So we have plenty of time to drive back, making an obligatory Buc-ee's stop at least once on the on the way back, But we've never risked it. 95 is a little too unpredictable in terms of traffic and craziness and whatnot, that we're always a little apprehensive of trying. I mean, I guess theoretically we could do it same day, but we haven't risked it yet.
You did your halfway night, then you get down to Port Canaveral. How was your embarkation as you boarded the ship, and how long did it take you from the curb to the ship?
Embarkation, honestly, couldn't have gone better this time. We got there at about noon to the curbside. We use an off-site parking lot that we're fond of, so we were dropped off at about noon. Honestly, we were grabbing the keys at our cabin within an hour. It was very, very rapid. Now, one advantage we have, and it's why we started cruising MSC in the first place, was because of the status match thing. So they've now created a level above what they gave us. Now they have a level they call Blue Diamond, but they had given us their highest status at the time, which was Diamond. So there's a specific lane for that. So we get through the crowd pretty fast. But there have been times where we've waited outside for a while to get into the terminal. This wasn't one of those times, which surprised me because the ship was clearly, well over 100% capacity.
This ship is a MSC Grandiosa, or I guess no, it's an MSC Maravilla Plus class ship, and I think there's three ships in this class altogether here. So you mentioned that you've been on seashore a few times. So what were your impressions as you walked on board the MSC Grandiosa?
Grandiosa is really a very attractive ship. It's a very beautiful ship. It has a very kind of classic feel to it with a big central promenade and, the spaces are very nice. It doesn't have, it has it, but it's not as grand as it is on, let's say, seashore to have sort of that multi-level atrium feel. They have a little atrium, but it's little. It does go up several decks, but it's not, like on seashore, it's enormous and it's where all the activities take place. On Grandiosa, there is a promenade, 2-level promenade, very similar to a royal ship. And it was, like I said, it was very attractive. Reminded me of more of a sort of a Holland America ship, like Rotterdam, kind of in the feel. It had kind of a very classic feel to it, but it was very gorgeous. I mean, just beautiful. Especially since the promenade area has the full length of it has a curved LED ceiling that they do shows on throughout the day. That was really quite something, especially at New Year's.
Yeah, I caught I think it was a dinosaur show I caught on that screen one afternoon when I was doing brunch at that steakhouse there. And just watching it, I was mesmerized just how realistic and how they pump the sound in. I can honestly say I've never seen anything on a ship to that magnitude as far as the ceiling, and they really nailed it with that.
Oh, I have to agree with you, Doug, 100%. And on New Year's, of course, initially they used it all day long to show a giant clock and do the countdown. And then once New Year's hit, they did a virtual fireworks display across that thing that, rivaled anything, I've seen in real life. I mean, it was very realistic. And well done. I mean, well done.
Did you find yourself in the yacht club this sailing?
No. You and I have talked about yacht club in the past on Seashore. I'm not a fan of yacht club. I don't, disparage anybody who loves it, and a lot of people do. But the thing we were in an interior cabin mid, and it was perfectly fine for us because, we just don't spend that much time in the cabin. I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I'd rather spend my money on all the other stuff, the specialty dining, the things that my wife wants to buy, the spa, rather than on the room. So we had they call it a deluxe interior. It was perfectly fine for the two of us for the week. We had no problems with adequate storage or with the size of the bathroom. And it saved us some coin. So we were in a regular inside cabin.
This one has about a dozen or so passenger decks on it. So what deck was your cabin on? And you mentioned it was
11.
midship, 11. Okay. And what did you think of the cabin as far as space-wise, amenities, and did it suit your needs for the 7 nights?
Absolutely. Now, again, I recognize that, like, if you were more than just a couple, then, it's going to be really cramped. Like if you have children or something, it's going to be cramped, even though, there's a couple of those inside cabins with the bunk beds that drop out of the ceiling and they think you can get 4 people in there. That would be a little tight. We were fine with the 2 of us in there. And again, I think it depends a lot, Doug, on what your personal preference is. Like, I know there are people who love sitting on their balcony and getting room service and all of that. And Linda and I, that's just not our vibe. So we are more out of the cabin than we're in the cabin. We're there to sleep and shower, and that's pretty much it. And the rest of the time we're out and about.
Would deck 11 be what you would call like the midpoint, where a couple of decks up is the buffet, a couple of decks down is the entertainment and other action?
Exactly. And, I try and find, the one thing I am particular about is I'm a very light sleeper, so I try and, find the quietest place that I can. And usually for me, that's a cabin, and the rules, anybody who cruises on a regular basis does. You look for the one where you got cabins all the way around you and you're not near, any of the big public areas. And this one was perfect. We were, 11 sort of in the middle. We were in the mid to forward on the ship. But it was great. It was perfectly quiet. It suited my needs wonderfully.
Let's talk about the dining on Grandiosa here. And their buffet is the Marketplace Buffet, I believe. Maybe it's cafe.
You're right.
Yeah. How was the food there? And I'm curious, with the ship being in North America now, because it has been in Europe pretty much its entire life, has the food changed? I know you really had nothing to compare it to, but was it a good mixture of European and North American food?
Well, it is funny that you bring up that point, just to sort of, take a little detour for a second. It's really obvious with Grandiosa, and in fact, in talking to some of the crew members, they've been sort of work in progress. They've been tweaking as they go because they haven't quite figured out the American market yet, at least relative to this ship. So as an example, the sailing before ours, in order to make reservations for specialty dining, there was only one place you could go to do that, one desk. And it was in the big promenade. And the first couple of times, people just had to queue up. And we were told by a crew member that people were standing online for literally more than an hour to make specialty dining reservations because MSC hasn't figured out how to do that in the app yet. And they quickly pivoted. So now they did like the old delicatessen number system this time. So you turned up, they handed you a number, and then you could kind of watch what number they were serving, and you could sort of mill around and do other things, and you didn't have to kind of stand in the queue. And so they're pivoting like on a regular basis. So I don't know what the food was like initially, but I'm guessing that they've pivoted because the buffet was terrific. I actually have very few negatives on this trip, which is unusual for me. The buffet was really good. It was definitely Americanized. Yes, there were some of the international selections, but it was definitely reminded me more of Seashore or Royal in terms of the variety of food. The only thing that was challenging was just the fact that, you know, and you got to expect this, it was a holiday cruise. They were packed. So, I mean, you know, if you hit the buffet at the wrong time, you know, it was a madhouse, but it was excellent. I can't say enough nice things about it. Now, we only did breakfast and some lunchtime snacks there. We did not eat our evening meal in there. We split that between specialty dining and the MDR, and we did some lunches in specialty dining. So we managed to hit almost all the specialty restaurants on board during this trip.
Did you feel that the food was consistent between the Seashore and Grandiosa?
Yeah, in fact, I think Grandiosa might have been a little bit better. It's funny. I think that the venues were different and not necessarily in a good way. But I think the food was a little more elevated on the Grandiosa than it has been on the Seashore. It's been good on the Seashore. Obviously, we've done 4 trips on the Seashore and we have 2 more booked. We like the Seashore. So, but Grandiosa was a little bit elevated, but the venues were a bit odd. And that's where I think they need to, maybe work a little harder on Americanizing those. So, for example, in the MDR, there weren't any small tables. So we ended up sitting with 2 other couples for the trip. Now, fortunately, we got along and we had some good conversation. But, sometimes you just want to be with your spouse and you just want to have a nice kind of quiet dinner for 2. And there just wasn't that opportunity. There were no 2 tops in the area. It was all these big, the big round tables. The specialty restaurants, the Ola Cantina, the Mexican restaurant, I think is much nicer on Grandiosa than it is on Seashore in terms of the venue. It looks really nice. It looks very much like you're in a taqueria. But we ate, for instance, at Butcher's Cut, and oh my God, it's like a glorified closet. I mean, the thing is tiny. And then they have that weird overflow where they seat people in the walkway outside the restaurant. They have tables. So you're not only, if you happen to be sitting outside, you're not only listening to whatever's going on in the main promenade area, which can get pretty loud sometimes, but you also have everybody trying to jostle past you because it's an active passageway. It's an active corridor. It just, those things kind of struck me as like, And the only thought I had, Doug, about that was I'm thinking when we've done cruises in Europe, we haven't done MSC in Europe, but when we've done cruises in Europe, you pretty much expect when you're on a cruise in Europe, you're going to be off the ship more than you're on it. You're there for the destinations, not the ship. Mm-hmm. When you're cruising out of Florida and doing the Caribbean, to me, the ship is as much the destination as where you're going. And so I think that's probably why they had these kind of weird configurations to the dining, because they probably don't have as many people availing themselves of that when they're doing the European route, because they're probably eating their meals in some neat port in Greece or France or wherever. And they're probably just not using it as much. But this one where everybody's trying to get into those, it was a little odd.
This one has, like the Seashore 2, I believe, has 4 main dining rooms. So what determines which one of those 4 dining rooms you dine? Is it connected to your status for the fare you buy?
No, amazingly not. With the exception of, they have the 2 upper classes, right? They have the Yacht Club. Yacht Club's got its own restaurant. And then if you're in Aria, which is the suites connected to the spa, they have their own dining room. But otherwise, it just seems to be randomized. There were 3 dining times every night. We were assigned to 6 p.m., which is fine. We like eating early, so that was great. We were assigned to 6 p.m., and we were just told you're going to be, at this dining room, and here's your table. Everybody was in the majority of those. There were 3 of those, the MDRs for sort of everybody, and then 1 MDR for the Oria class, and of course, Yacht Club has its own. In fact, the next sailing that we do on Seashore, we're going to be in the Oria, the spa-related ones. My wife wants to try that because she loves the spa. So I'll have to see what their dining room is like, meaning is the menu any different?
Only asking out of curiosity, but you seem to love the Seashore. Why is that?
I think it has more to do with the style of cruising that we like to do. I mean, we've done, I don't know the exact number now, we're north of 30 cruises that we've done. And the majority of them are the ones that they unfortunately label the booze cruises. We like the weekender cruises. It works with our lifestyle. It works with, I'm semi-retired now, but I mean, it works with our work schedules. And so we first started cruising back in, late 90s, 99, something like that, when Disney came out with their cruise ship. Their first one, I think, was Wonder. And they were doing these little 3-day, 4-day things to the Bahamas, and that's what introduced us to cruising. So since that time, that's kind of been our style. The vast majority of the cruises we've done, whether it's been Disney, Carnival, Royal, now MSC, we like those shorter cruises. So it's not so much that we're in love with the Seashore as a ship. We do really like the whole experience with MSC. It really suits us. But we also just like the fact that they do the short cruises.
Okay, fair enough. I was just curious there. With the dining package, with the Ola Cantina and Butcher's Cut, which is the steakhouse, was that as included? Do you get any kind of perks for being Blue Diamond, like a free specialty restaurant? How does that play out?
Well, unfortunately, we're not yet Blue Diamond. We're Diamond, just to be specific about it, because they created that new one now. I guess they were giving away so many Diamond level, like so many of these lines are doing now, right? They're reconfiguring their loyalty programs because of, they've given so many people loyalty. Everybody wants the perk. But to answer the question, for Diamond, we get 1 night in specialty dining. So we use that for the Butcher's Cut. So that was a comp, which was excellent. I mean, the food was excellent. Like I say, the venue was a little confining in comparison to, say, Seashore, where it's got to be 4 times the size of what's on Grandiosa. But we did the butcher's cut. Now, the others, we didn't buy a package for them, Doug. The other specialty dining, we just a la carted. And that was fine. I think that worked for us, especially like the Ola Cantina, because they have an all-you-can-eat special. I think it's $24.95 is what they're asking for it now. But you can a la carte things. So, we can go in and instead of spending $24.95, probably spend, $15 saying I'll have a couple of these tacos and I'll have, some chips and salsa or something. We did the same thing at the sushi bar. They had an all you could eat for $39. We a la carted. I'm good with 1 roll. I don't need 15. So we a la carted that. The only one we paid full price for was we did do lunch at the Teppanyaki Grill. That was okay. I won't say that was memorable.
Why wasn't it memorable?
When you buy into the teppanyaki thing, you have 2 things that I think can work for you or against you, which is it's communal dining, so it depends on the group that you get at your table and how engaged they are with what's going on, and the chef, because you're paying for a show, right? You're not just paying for, grilled chicken. You're paying for the guy to do all the little tricks and flips and flair and all the things that they do. So unfortunately, this time we kind of got the double whammy. We got a group of people at our table who were very nice, but one was a family with very small children that were very uncooperative for their parents. I mean, I kind of felt bad, but, sort of sitting at the teppanyaki table with the screaming baby is not conducive to really having, a great vibe at the table. And then the chef that we had, he was okay, but I don't know if he was being thrown off by the unruly children. And so he wasn't as engaged with everybody as maybe he could have been. The food was good. It was prepared very nicely. It was certainly delicious. But again, it wasn't quite the vibe. And I think that's just a roll of the dice, unless you're traveling with a big group and you can take over a whole table.
As far as entertainment on Grandiosa, how was that, and how did it play out for you and your wife for the 7 nights?
No, that's a great question. And one other thing, just to back up a second about the teppanyaki. That's another thing that's very small on Grandiosa. There's only 2 of those tables.
Oh, wow. That is small.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that's a popular choice with cruisers. I know, it's always hard to get a reservation there. And I think on Seashore, I think they have 5 or 6 of them going at one time. It's big. Here they had 2. So again, I think that speaks to the European thing. If they're not really expecting people en masse to eat, on the in the teppanyaki or the butcher's cut or anything else to the extent that they do on the other ships. But to circle back to your question about entertainment, the cruise director was terrible, really unengaged. It looked like he was just bored all the time. He was an older Englishman, and he just didn't seem to be really into it. He had an assistant who handled some of the activities like bingo and things like that, who was very engaging, but she was very Italian and had a very thick accent, very kind of hard to really understand what she was saying from the stage. As far as the entertainment was concerned, I have to break it into kind of 3 groups. One was the main stage shows, which were your standard, song and dance shows. They were okay. I won't say that. I think they were better on Seashore. They were okay. They did an ABBA tribute night. They did a Michael Jackson tribute night. They did a Tina Turner tribute night. Same cast, same kind of song and dance choreography. They did 3 shows a night, so they were the theater's small in the thing too. So in order to accommodate everybody, they were doing 3 shows. So I don't know if they would have done longer shows in Europe and fewer of them, but they were sort of 35 minutes. It was like you were in, you were out. They were okay. I mean, it didn't suck, but it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen on a stage by far. They had the obligatory magician who did a show one night. Again, same thing. It was okay. Nothing memorable. We didn't go to the comedian that they had. They had both the family-friendly show and the adult show with the comedian. We're not big fans of comedians we don't know. If it's somebody we've seen before on YouTube or Netflix or something, we might see their show. But, comedy, we just didn't go to that. Then they had 2 shows in what they call the Carousel Theater, which were an upcharge. They were $18 a person. It included a cocktail. And they were Cirque du Soleil style shows. One was called Strings. The other was called Sweet. They were, I was over the moon. They were fabulous. In fact, we had bought into the Strings show. We liked it so much that we came out and reserved the other show. It was amazing. If you like Cirque du Soleil, which we do, that was fabulous. Now, unfortunately, it was an $18 a person upcharge, but it was really great. The last in terms of entertainment was the musicians in the different venues. Again, same thing. Amazing. In particular, there was a young man in the Masters of the Sea pub that they have on board that, by God, Doug, the guy was a human jukebox. People could call out anything and he could play it. They were very, very good in all the bars, in all the venues. The musicians were top drawer. There was a jazz combo in one of the bars that was terrific. So with the exception of the main stage and the fact that you had to pay for the really good show, the entertainment was really good. I mean, we spent most of our time, going from venue to venue, listening to the musicians. The one thing I found odd, and I don't know if this was accidental or whether it just happened that way, or was planned to be that way, was there was a very, very strong Latin vibe to everything in the music. Even the parties that MSC threw, like the White Party and the New Year's Party, lots of call out from the stage about, where are my Puerto Ricans? Where are my Dominicans? Where's my Costa Ricans? From the MCs of those shows, and a lot of Spanish music, a lot of Latin music. And I don't know if they just demographically knew that's who they had on that voyage and they pivoted, or if that's just the way they do it. The funniest part was in the MDR on the last night, it's the Italian night on the MSC ships, which we really enjoy. And they usually do a little song and dance at the end of the main meal before the dessert, kind of like Carnival does with the dancers and the little song. Mm-hmm. And on Seashore, it's just Italian songs. They'll do a couple Italian songs. And on this one, they did an Italian song and then followed it with the Macarena. So it was entertaining, but it was kind of felt a little oddly out of place for Italian night. So I don't know why they did that. I was a little confused by that, but it was okay. It was still entertaining, but it just seemed like they really were aiming at that Latin crowd.
Yeah, so MSC, they source a large part of their demographic from Latin America countries. So especially,
okay.
You see a lot of Brazil, Argentina, Chile, a lot of different mixes on board. So I'm guessing, going back to what you said about they knew they were coming. So yeah, they have the demographic breakdown, and the entertainment director will plan the entertainment for the week based on that demographic. Let's just say it was a lot of people from the Southeast. Let's just say like Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. It could lean a little more to the country vibe. That's just how it works out behind the scenes.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So you've schooled me on that. But yeah, it was definitely, because we weren't the only ones. In fact, our table mates at the MDR, one couple was a older couple, my age, 60s, 70s. They were from New Jersey. There was another couple, and they were from Georgia, up around the Atlanta area. And all of them said the same thing about, hey, what's going on? Like, we went to the bar last night and it was nothing but, the lady from New Jersey kept calling it Mexican music. I don't know that it was actually Mexican. It was in Latin music, but I didn't hear any mariachi bands. Like I say, I found it enjoyable, but I didn't understand a word they were singing, but, I found it enjoyable.
How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
Rough. That was probably the most difficult, especially when we had the unexpected one, because the cruise director hadn't really planned anything. Like, that surprised me too, in terms of, I won't be the first to tell you, I don't know what the cruise director's responsibilities are, in terms of job description. But I would think if I were a cruise director, missed ports happen. And I would think I would have a plan B, like ready to drop in the box if that happened. And so the captain made the decision about not going to Grand Cayman. While we were eating breakfast in the buffet, the announcement came over. So that was at about 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And MSC has this funny quirk that on their app, you can't see the daily program until very late the night before the next day. Like, they don't load their app where you can see every day what's going on. You don't get to see what's happening until like 9, 10 o'clock the night before. And that's like throughout the cruise, right? So, you'll see Monday's activities. You open up Tuesday and it'll say, we're still planning, activities or whatever. And, Monday night around 9, it'll populate, it'll click in. Because in fact, the guy who was playing in the Brit pub joked with us that he doesn't even know his own schedule until later that night, in terms of what venue he's going to be playing in. So that's a little quirk for them. So when the captain calls off the Grand Cayman, we didn't have like a schedule of activities till almost lunchtime. That actually populated. That was different than what was already on there, which was minimal, because the expectation was everybody was getting off the ship in Grand Cayman.
Yeah.
Or most people would. So the schedule for that day was pretty light. And it wasn't until noon that he added some things in. Now, one of the things they added in that we enjoyed was they showed the F1 movie with Brad Pitt in the main theater at about 2 p.m, and we went to that.
Okay.
And that was not there before, and that was something they threw in. But it really seemed like he was, it was a big kerfluffle for him. He really, the cruise director, because he had come on after the captain and said, we're working on some new things for you. We're sorry you missed your port. But it took him to lunchtime to even come up with anything. So I really thought they could have done a better job with that. And I think it was a lot of grumbling because of that. We talked to some other cruisers that said that they had teenage kids that were kind of bored, that there weren't enough activities posted for them, especially when they missed a port. And of course, with everybody remaining on board on the sea days and the unexpected sea day, good luck getting a chair by the pool. It was packed. I'm sure, I don't know what the number was that was on there, but it was certainly well above, I'm sure, 100% capacity. Which again, didn't bother me. I'm not one to spend, a ton of time out sunbathing. So, it really didn't bother me, but I'm sure a lot of people were grumbling about that.
You mentioned that you do like the MSC spa and, or your wife does. Do you get any kind of perks with your status matching for the spa?
Yeah, absolutely. With the Diamond, we get to use the thermal spa area. In theory, we're allowed to use it once for an hour during the cruise, which is the area that has the nicer whirlpool and the steam bath and the sauna and the comfy reclining, heated chairs and the salt room and all of that. We get to use that. It says for an hour, but both on Seashore and on Grandiosa, nobody really monitors it. And I would show my key card, and the lady would just nod, and I would go in. So hopefully MSC doesn't hear this and decide to police it better, but we were able to use it kind of at will because of the status. Otherwise, obviously, there's a charge. Now, with the Aurea class that we're going to be doing the next time, it's included unlimited, so I don't have to worry about them policing it. And then the spa services are, like spa services anywhere, with the exception that I'll give MSC kudos for the fact that we've never experienced a lot of really hard upselling with their spas. Mm-hmm. Like, I know the spas are concessioned out. So whoever is running the spas for MSC, there might be a little bit of a soft sell to try and get you to buy some product or buy another service. But it's not like some of the other ones. The worst that we've experienced actually was Disney. Mm-hmm. Disney was brutal about, sometimes they would even add something on that you didn't ask for, because they would ask you a question and you would answer it. Like, they would go, "Oh, do you feel like you have a high level of stress?" And if you said like, yes, all of a sudden there was like some kind of aromatherapy added to your bill that you didn't know they were going to do. At least MSC does not aggressively upsell. So that's really nice. And yeah, we really enjoy the spa. That's one of the, things that's a perk for us.
Let's talk about the casino now. I know you have to walk through the casino to get to the carousel lounge in the back of the ship. Some MSC ships are now non-smoking. Is this non?
No, and it was brutal. Mm-hmm. One of the things I'll say about the Grandiosa as opposed to Seashore does a really good job of controlling where you can smoke and making sure that people are in those areas. Grandiosa, it's like a free-for-all, which again made me think it's really more set for the European market and not really set for the U.S. market. Because like there's a whole section beside the main pool, a huge, huge area that's for smokers, and it's glassed in. It's not like on an open deck. Like on the Seashore, it's on an open deck, so the smell's blowing away. Granted, you have the main opening above the pool that acts like a chimney and sucks everything up. But if you're walking through that area, it's like a foggy day in London. The casino was the same way. My wife enjoys the casino more than I do. And she spent a very minimal amount of time there and kind of went on sea days during like off times when it wasn't as crowded because of that smoking problem. It's just, there's no good ventilation in there. So you're right. Just walking through to get to the carousel lounge, the secondhand smoke's brutal.
You mentioned the Carousel Lounge. You did that $18 show earlier. Did that come with any drinks or a cocktail to enjoy during the show?
Yeah, you got a cocktail. They were already pre-made. Mm-hmm. So they had, trays of them. And you got to select alcoholic, non-alcoholic. The kids' cost was a little cheaper. It's $12 because, of course, they were only going to get the non-alcoholic. I don't know. We didn't have the drinks package, so I don't know whether, like, if you have a drinks package, does it work in the carousel? Or could you get an extra drink and you get the one that comes with your ticket? Or is it that it doesn't work there, so the only way to get a drink is the ticket? But there wasn't a real bar per se in there. It was, so they had a rum punch, they had a mojito, they had a margarita drink, they had a gin and tonic drink. And they were basically, when you walked in the theater, Doug, they had these trays were set up with people that were there monitoring them and telling you what was in the drink, and then basically handing you one. So you picked the drink, and then you found your seat in the theater.
Let's talk about your ports of call here. You mentioned that you did miss a port, which was Grand Cayman, but you did go to Cozumel in Jamaica and Ocean Key?
Yep, and also Nassau.
In Nassau, too. So give us a highlight from each port, starting at Cozumel.
Cozumel, we got off and walked around. We actually, it was funny. We joked that the cruise gods were against us doing excursions this time, because we had booked 2 excursions before the trip. One was in Cozumel and the other one was in Grand Cayman. So we missed the one in Grand Cayman because we missed the port entirely. We missed the one in Cozumel because we had signed up for a Mexican cooking class. And the night before, when we were coming into Cozumel, we got a notice in our cabin that not enough people signed up for the cooking class, so they weren't going to run it. So that got canceled. So we ended up getting off and walking around in Cozumel without any real excursion planned. It was the traditional Caribbean port. I mean, we walked around and we bought a couple little things and shopped a little bit. I will say the people in Cozumel, much like the people in Nassau, they're a bit aggressive with their sales. And my wife gets a little nervous about that. She doesn't like people coming up and like throwing a hat on her and that kind of thing, to try and sell her something. So it was okay. I'm sure the people that went on the excursions probably had a better time than we did. We probably would have had a great time. We were trying to recreate, we had gone on a family cruise many years ago, probably this pre-pandemic for sure, where we did a Mexican cooking class and we had other family members with us and we had a blast and it was really terrific. So we were kind of trying to recreate that memory, but unfortunately there weren't enough people and they canceled it. Grand Cayman, we missed. Jamaica, we went to, we made port at Falmouth. We got off. Jamaica was lovely. The people were lovely, very chill. But same thing, we didn't really have an excursion plan because the only excursions they were offering really in Jamaica were the more active ones, like the, walking up the waterfall and all of that. And I'm sorry, at 66, I don't want to replace a hip. So I'm not going to be walking up a waterfall. So we ended up, same thing, wandered around, did some shopping, were entertained by some of the, local musicians that were out playing in the port area, but they were very nice. Jamaica, interestingly, had a huge police presence there, which on one hand made it a little like, why are you guys all here? On the other hand, it certainly made it feel very safe because every corner you turned around, there were heavily armed police in Falmouth. But yeah, we had a great time there. Nassau, we did not get off. Honestly, we usually don't. The only thing I really like in Nassau is the zoo. We talked about maybe going there, but the weather wasn't great that day. So we didn't get off in Nassau. Ocean Cay, depending on how we want to pronounce that weird spelling. I love that island. Mm-hmm. I love that island. And having cruised most of the major lines, we've been to pretty much everybody's island at one time or another, with the exception of some of the newer ones like Celebration or Lighthouse Point. It is my favorite. It is, to me, the closest thing of being like on an unspoiled island in the Bahamas as you can get. And no real like hard upsell on stuff like, like Perfect Day is or something where everything you touch is an upcharge. So we just had a really great beach day. Went swimming in the ocean. It was still warm enough to do that. I love to do that. So we were out swimming in the ocean. Nice food, number of choices, both between the buffet and the food trucks that are included. So yeah, really great time there.
I got a listener email giving a little bit of pushback on that island, saying that now you have to pay for beach chairs. And I didn't know if they were saying in prime locations or all beach chairs. Do you have any context to that?
Absolutely, I do. What they have is they have, rentals or whatever you want to call them. So they have certain beaches that have the free lounge chairs on them. The lounge chairs don't have umbrellas. If you want an umbrella, there's an upcharge for it. It's, I think, $20 for the day. There are certain areas of the beach, particularly around this lagoon that they have. They don't have a pool like some of these places do, but they have a lagoon where, you're not in the open ocean. So you don't have waves and everything, but it's connected on both ends to the ocean. But they have this lagoon, and it's South Beach and North Beach on that island. There they do have roped off private areas, huge, roped off private areas where you can rent 2 loungers and an umbrella for, well, if you don't buy it pre the cruise on a special, it's like $35. We usually do buy that on South Beach. We will pay, usually we wait till they offer the little 30% off or whatever before the cruise, and we will buy that. It doesn't get you anything else. You don't get special food. You don't get, drinks or whatever else. You don't get bar service. All you're getting is the loungers and the umbrella. But there's plenty of places on there. And then, of course, they have the upscale cabanas and the different things like all the cruise lines do. That's just the way of the world these days. I don't take offense to it, especially considering that, to me, MSC hasn't quite figured out how to price for the American market yet, and I'm happy about that. I think the cruise prices are very reasonable with MSC. So, yeah, you want to charge me $35 for 2 chairs and an umbrella for the day? Yeah, fine. I'll do it. If you don't want to pay it, there are free loungers. They're available. And I don't think they really have bad beaches. I haven't seen any really bad beaches there. And the only place that's truly exclusive, because even where those $35 setups are, that's just a roped off area. So you can be in the exact same beach. You're just on either side of the roped off area. The yacht club has its own, sorry, thou shalt not go there unless you're in yacht club, and their own restaurant. But unless you're in that group, come on, anybody who's been to any of the places, I remember when we went to, the last time we were at Perfect Day, you've got the sort of free area. You've got the slightly upscale beach club you can pay a crazy amount of money for. You've got the adult only one that you can pay even more for. The way of the world. What are they charging now for Royal with that thing at Nassau on Paradise Island? So yeah, I get the pushback. But it was not like, well, buy a chair or not. There were chairs to be had. There's plenty of palm trees if you want some shade. We saw a lot of people, Doug, frankly, that just took their beach towels. Reminded me of a day at Tybee. People just had their beach towel laid out on the sand and they were just sitting on their beach towel. So yeah, they have for sale stuff or for rent stuff. But it's not mandatory.
Okay. So you make your way back to Port Canaveral. How was debark?
Debark was weird, and I don't know whether to blame MSC or whether to blame the port. I really think it was more the port, because what happened was, MSC gives you times to get off, and because we were in Diamond, we were group 2 to get off. So you have the self debark if you're just carrying all your luggage with you. You have group 1, which is your suites and your yacht club and your Aria suites and all of that. And then we were the next group too. So we were told by 8 o'clock, get out of the cabin. And we were told to wait. They tell you where to wait. We were told to wait in the carousel lounge. It was very nice. They had a full breakfast buffet and they had the restaurants open for breakfast. So we got up early. We went to the buffet at 7:00 in the morning. They had the full buffet out, not a limited buffet. We had a big giant breakfast. It was great. We went back to the room. We got our hand luggage, said goodbye to our cabin steward, who was fabulous. And then we went and waited in the carousel lounge. So then they called our number. And then it was very smooth. Like there were, 50 people in the carousel lounge. We all walked right off. So then we get down to the where the luggage is, to pick up luggage, and we can't find the number. Like it starts at the high numbers, like 24, 25, and we're number 2, and we can't find the luggage. So we walk all the way through the little terminal thing, and we're just about to the point where you go through customs, and everybody's confused. And I said to the lady who was there in the port, I said, we're number 2 to pick up, table 2. We can't find where that is. And she literally goes to me, well, that's not ready yet. You have to stand over here. They literally had like a roped off area. And by the time we were done, there had to have been 150 people shoulder to shoulder corralled in this little area in the terminal, waiting to be released to go all the way to the other side of the terminal to pick up our luggage. And it was crazy. And we were there we got off the ship. From the time we hit the carousel lounge, we were in the terminal in 15 minutes. We stood, no restrooms, no water, no nothing, inside the terminal, shoulder to shoulder with 150 people for an hour.
Yikes.
And then finally they went, okay, your luggage is ready. And they let us go down to it. And once we got the luggage, then it was fine. We came out, we got the shuttle, we got the car, we were gone. But I don't know whether that was something that went wrong with MSC, that they didn't get the people with those early numbers of debark, 1, 2, 3, 4. They didn't get those people's luggage out of the ship on time, or if the port was screwing it up. I don't know. I tend to be a pretty chill guy, so I was like, it is what it is, but there were some people getting pretty ugly, about having to stand there literally for like 45 minutes, an hour, before they let us on into the next area. Never had that happen before. So I don't know what the deal was with that. Usually debark for us on all the lines has been pretty smooth. Every now and again you get a hiccup, but pretty smooth. But yeah, that was just weird. I don't know who to blame it on.
Any first-time tips for someone considering sailing MSC Grandiosa?
Absolutely. The moment that you get on this ship, the moment that your feet hit the deck, make sure you're on the app and book everything. Book everything that you want to book. Because in the app, you do have to book your entertainment. So you have to book your shows. So they fill up super fast, the prime times. Mm-hmm. Same thing with everything else, especially dining, spa appointments. We have a little routine that as soon as we get our cruise card, we do our muster drill and we just start booking crap. We just get around and we book our spa times, we book our specialty dining, we book our shows. Don't delay, because MSC isn't real good about, one of the things they're bad about is letting you know stuff. Mm-hmm. So they don't really tell people they have to do that. And so we had people that we met later in the cruise, later in the week, that either had to go to times they didn't want to go or got locked out entirely of some things because nobody told them they needed to book those things. Now, you can do it in the app or you can do it in the touch screens that are all over the ship, but you need to do it like right away. That's my number one tip, is the moment your feet hit the deck, book everything so you get the times you want and you don't get locked out of anything.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all?
I think the biggest highlight, oddly enough, was the nights that we spent in the Masters of the Sea pub listening to this guy, Jesse, that I just love good music. And this guy was a guitar player and a singer from Oklahoma. And I kiddingly called him the human jukebox because you could call any tune you wanted. And this young guy knew how to play it. And we just met a lot of great people in there. It had a really good vibe to that venue. And that was probably our favorite. Probably a close number 2 were the shows in the Carousel Theater, because I'm a huge Cirque fan. Seen all the Cirque shows in Vegas, seen them different places around the country. Love Cirque du Soleil. This is not a branded Cirque du Soleil show, but it's very similar. And that was well worth every penny. I just came out wow on that one.
And in closing here, your final thoughts of MSC Grandiosa.
Great ship. I would readily jump right back on it again, although I do think it's a work in progress if they're going to really leave it here for the American market. I think it really is a little too European in both the size of the venues and the way in which they're running the ship. I think one of my pluses with MSC, and I've seen this was cruise number 5 with them. MSC seems really good about reading the surveys and pivoting. We've noticed that. Obviously, we've been on Seashore multiple times, and we've noticed when we've gone back on, things that we noted in our surveys have been tweaked and changed. So I think MSC is really good at pivoting, and I think they will. But I would readily go back on the ship again. But don't expect, Utopia with Royal, or don't expect Mardi Gras with Carnival. I mean, it is a chill ship. It's much more Holland America-like.
All right. We've been talking with Ralph about his 7-night cruise on MSC Grandiosa. Always good talking to you, my friend. And I'm serious. Next time you're coming through here, stop by.
I will absolutely do that, Doug. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and have a very happy New Year.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast, or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,